and has meaning. Each moment is meant to be experienced and cherished. Welcome to Anxiety Simplified Podcast. I'm Joanne Williams, and I'm going to share ways to refocus this anxiety energy to a more productive and effective way to go through life. You already have all the tools. I'll just remind you how to use them. We'll be tuning into your own power to choose and find more joy and peace. Let's get started remembering this wisdom.
Hi, everyone. This is Joanne Williams, and it's Halloween weekend and election next week, next Tuesday, that may not have results for days or weeks. So, this is going to be kind of an anxiety producing. And then on top of that, we have daylight saving time returning. We lose an hour. So, there's a lot of change. And we know as humans, that's not something we really like. So, uncertainty, fear, or anxiety can be part of it. So if you don't like fear, and that's what we're going to talk about, how to be fearless today. Why do we like horror films and scaring each other on Halloween? Maybe we understand about facing fears more than we know, or understanding that we can actually intuitively understand that exposure therapy, it's called. It's when you flood your senses with fear or your phobia so that your senses can't stay at that high level any farther, and they starts to accept it. Or is it just more getting out of your normal character that we like? Something or someone besides being something or someone besides ourselves. Well, today we are going to talk about feeling fearless and 14 ways to feel fearless from an article, excuse me, from lifehack.org article by Anthony Mazzocchi. And I've added my additions to it. So I'll give you a little summary in a minute, but I'm just going to let you know my secret or my feelings about Halloween. I really hate Halloween, and I don't use that word very lightly. I don't use hate at all. But to me, it's a waste of holiday, time, expense, and candy. What about that? Never been shown to be good for you. Rot your teeth, create bacteria in your body that never leaves, or fungus. And that bacteria can affect your heart, and sugar feeds cancer. So I really don't get it. Why would you spend good money on candy that hurts you, on a costume that costs a fortune sometimes that you wear once to a party where everybody looks stupid and silly? I just don't like people scaring me either because I have anxiety already, and that makes me feel worse. I can see it for kids. They want candy, but to me, I just don't get it. So, enough about me. Let me summarize what we're going to talk about today with 14 ways to feel fearless. But really, we all have fear, and we're going to talk about that. And it is natural for our brain's response to have fear. But fear or anxiety, what's the difference there? And question of the day, is fear learned, or can we learn skills to deal with our irrational fears? And I will tell you right off the bat, absolutely yes. If we choose to, that is the difference. Most people feel they are a hostage to their fear, which is an emotion, but it is the thoughts that keep us a mental hostage to ourselves and our fear. Since the originator of the fear is not happening anymore, that's rational. Say what? I can change my thoughts and not be fearful anymore? Yes. And that is the premise of this Halloween podcast. We all have fear. It's an emotion. That is as normal as breathing, according to Anthony Mazzocchi. The problem is that most people cling to their fears, he says, and are therefore unable to move forward in their lives with the necessary changes. But as a therapist, I understand that it is not that we consciously cling to fear. It is that our brain is stuck in fear and can't get out. Clients with panic attacks and PTSD that I deal with every single day can't get out of this unstuck brain themselves. And we're going to talk more about that later here. Mazzocchi reports that he has learned a lot about fear in his life as a professional musician. And he learned that the only difference between people who achieve greatness and those who do not is that the former ditched their fears. Many of the methods he has used to prepare for big performances have helped him to conquer his fears in other areas of his life. Okay, here we go. So here is one hint. If you conquer fear in one part of your life, it will help you in other parts of your life. So there is hope here. Here's how you can actually start to overcome fear or to feel fearless. Number one, be aware of fear in your life, he says. Before we can begin to overcome fear, we have to admit that we have it, he says. Perhaps fear is your normal state of being, and that is quite a bit for some to overcome all at once. He says, write some aspects of your life where fear affects you. Getting them down on paper is important because trying to simply think them through never works. But I say, being aware of them, and when fear arises, for me as a therapist, what you do need to do, write them down if that helps, but just being aware in the moment, to me, is more important. How they negatively impact your life has a deeper meaning. When you can feel in charge, if you feel that fear, then you feel you can have a choice about it or not changing it. Control is a big issue in fear. Our reactions can be quick and irrational, but we can bring them into our rational part of our brain by being aware of them. Now, number two, Anthony says, stare at fearless people. I think that's a weird way to say that. He says, view others that are fearless to see yourself being and feeling invisible. Fill your brain with images of what you want your future self to look like. I get that. Connect with as many role models as you can. That's a great idea. Where they're in person, model after them through a book or online. Use these examples as an energy source to combat your fear. I say, even in dreams where fears are processed, make a new ending to a scary dream that you become the hero, swooping in and making everything okay. We'll be having a podcast on dreams, and that's definitely one of the techniques we'll be working with a dream coach. Be objective. He says, number three, take an interest in investigating your fears. Ask yourself about what thoughts generate your fear, where you feel the fear, and how you react to it. Try to be an objective observer of your own life. I like this one. Just noticing your fear is a great place to start. And if you practice observing yourself and not reacting to the fear, you are on your way to feeling more in control of them. Number four, how about being willing to look stupid? I like this one too. Remember Wayne Gretzky? A lot of you really may not. He used to fall all the time, a ton. Or Itzhak Perlman has had horrible performances. Once you are willing to risk the emotional pain of making mistakes, you will shed more fear than you ever imagined, he says. Because now, and think about it, this is what I'm saying, because practice does make perfect. Everyone has to start somewhere with their first performance or their first whatever. Knowing that making mistakes will help you obtain information you can use to create the correct better performance or behaviors. That everyone who has ever done something great has failed actually more than once, or I say more than they've succeeded. I say to do it when you're young as possible at a young age. It seems easier than when you're an adult, when you should know better, or encouraging your kids to try different things or be willing to make mistakes that lead to life lessons. And don't laugh at each other when something happens, they fall down or fail, when they're trying something new. Be encouraging. Really support your family and family members when they do try and fail. Failing can be an important, critical part of success or winning. And I think that's where competition can come in with these games. Let people struggle with disappointment, with failing, so to speak, with losing. It's an important part of emotional growth to understand how to do that and do it with grace. Parents, help your kids fail with grace or lose with grace. Number 5, adopt a gratitude mindset. Whenever you feel fear, try to just feel grateful instead. Tony talks about performing a lot of solos recently, and it was scary. Instead of freaking out, he has decided to be grateful for the opportunity to communicate musically with so many people. And he knew that they were genuinely listening to him play. And and he felt like they were really rooting him on. And I'm going to say the same thing for this podcast. I don't get a lot of feedback. I get rates and reviews, and I love more good ones to encourage me. I just think we really need more encouragement to do these things. I do feel like I'm kind of coming out of the counseling office to do these podcasts, record them. I never know if everything's going to go right, if they're going to sound right, if they're going to land right, if people appreciate them, and just feeling, I just go to gratitude. I am really grateful that I have the wherewithal, building the experience, because I still don't know if these are going to work and be successful in any way, shape, or form, if anybody even knows where they are or finds them. But I've committed to a year to do it and to look to see if this is something. And I just have to be grateful I have a voice to use to help people with anxiety. So I'm doing it. And sometimes that helps me just say, I'm just doing it. Good old Nike saying. But listen to how he was saying he chose gratitude instead of fear, to replace that fear with gratitude. I think that is the key here I want to share. Number 6, seek out teachers. It's never too late to have a teacher. We are never done learning. Seek out somebody who scares you maybe a little bit better than you. Maybe not a polite person who always makes you feel warm and fuzzy. Seek out somebody who watches you closely and is brutally honest and gives a clear direction on how you can get better or whatever scares you. They aren't going to hurt you. They will stretch you. Same for my advisors. They tell me to speak quicker, to speak clearer, to try this, try that. And it kind of becomes fun, and it does stretch me. And I think that's part of trying anything new. But it is nice to hear that people like it too. Share. Number 7, how often do you hold in negative thoughts because you are afraid of how others might react if you say them? To me, that's the definition of social anxiety. Not daring to say something because somebody will say something negative and you'll feel rejected. So you hold it in. Sharing can help because you may realize many other people feel the same way as you do and have stories to share as well. You'll actually feel some camaraderie and connection with other people. A lot of times I hear, I do certification for emotional support animals, and people will say, because they have their dog beside them, they are willing to talk more because the dog is an icebreaker. Clue. Do you have a fear of success or a fear of failure? Sharing with somebody how somebody can help you examine what you truly want from your life and where your fears come from and how it is stopping you from getting your goals. Instead of focusing on the fear, which will increase them, sharing is done to understand, or if done to understand how that person handled it or what they have learned and moved through in a is a great way to understand how somebody else handles it. Number 8, embrace struggle. This is to me is a really important one. Most of us instinctually avoid struggle because that's what our brains are designed to do. Avoid things that hurt because it feels like a failure. And that scares us. But the term no pain and no gain here holds true, according to Tony. To develop skills, it is necessary that we struggle. So we must, or should, I say should, embrace it. Once you struggle, fear slowly disintegrates because you face it. Do you remember the boogeyman when you were little and you didn't dare to put your feet down on the floor? Same concept. Once you go, what? There isn't anything under my bed. I looked. Stop. Put your foot down and nothing happened. The boogeyman to me just got into a little dust ball and you could blow him away. Do that with your fears. Another article I was just reading, though, was about saying that many of our young adults right now have been what he called coddled. And now they have not learned how to tolerate feelings, fearfulness, or struggle. This puts them at a disadvantage at college because they feel like they need a safe space to say something, to cope, because they haven't learned other coping skills. Nobody taught them about conflicts, internal or external. Struggle may be a good thing. Not too much, of course. We don't want pain. So you get discouraged. But be there for your kids to help them understand ways to do this. Number 9, read. This is Marcucci's personal favorite. Reading a good book related to your specific fear can open up new doors and how you can get rid of it. He likes to constantly fill his world with motivational and inspirational books related to this topic about dealing with it. And I'll add podcasts, Anxiety Simplified. But I really like the reading too. Continual emotional education keeps your mind and emotions in check. Even if you just read a few pages each day, read something that moves your emotional intelligence forward. Number 10, use visualizations. Imagine yourself in a scary situation without fear. Watch people do things fearlessly that would normally freak you out. Visualize yourself as that person doing it without fear. Create a very clear picture of fearlessness in your mind with you in it. Our brains don't know the difference between actual or virtual. Train your brain to be okay with something that is out of your comfort zone, and you will lessen your fear. 11, put things in perspective. Putting your negative thoughts in perspective is a huge way to overcome fear. In the grand scheme of life, why are you afraid? While you are freaking out about something, life is moving past you. Sometimes it's helpful to remember this. Or I think, what will I feel like in 1 year if I don't learn to cope or deal with this now? Your kids will have the same fears. They've learned it from you. And a hint, it only gets worse with age because you have more experiences for your brain to be fearful of. Release control. Number 12. Of course, we want to be in control, but when you relinquish it, we tend to free ourselves up. Allow yourself to make some mistakes. After all, that's where learning and growth really happens. We learn from our failures, but to fail, we need to release control. I believe we only let go when we have more to gain than lose from that letting go. Refocus on what is most important or more important than holding on to control. Think about the worst case scenario, number 13. What's the worst that could happen here? Marcucci says he has crumbled on stage in front of hundreds of people. He said, "My wife still loves me. I lived through it. Life goes on. Know that it will never be as bad as you have imagined." Number 14, look within. What is your root cause of fear? He says, meditate on it. Look inside and ask yourself when the fear started. How far back does it go? Did you have an early failure that stuck with you? Explore it. That's what life is all about, he says. But for me as a therapist, there's much more than Marcucci explains here. When we have had some bad things happen to us, our emotional brain protects us with fear to stop us from doing these same things that might hurt us or kill us in the future. That's why fear stops us with our emotional brain. The question now is, do you want that fear to stop your emotional growth or your financial, your success? Make a conscious choice of it now. Where is it invisible? Where it was invisible before, you just don't do those things anymore. You're not even knowing you're not doing them. So, do you know why you don't do those things? It's most likely started as a child and is filed away as dangerous. So don't touch that thing ever again. But that thing may save your life now. Fear of water. Learning to swim can be fun and save your life. Speaking in front of a crowd can bring you fame or money. Socializing more. You could now meet the person of your dreams. Flying, the fear of flying. Well, you know what? Look at the end goal. I'm going to see my family and I can't wait. Many others, once you know and make a conscious choice to address it, you can do it. Look within, and replacing your fears with reassurance is a way to work out your fears. But don't believe going in and stirring up a fear or re experiencing a trauma. Or re-experiencing, with a therapist is with anyone but a therapist is a good idea, unless you can come at it with resolution and feel empowered and better for doing it. But just rehashing for rehashing's sake is painful and never helpful and makes you want to avoid it more. Usually you need professional help if you can't change this yourself. So reach out, please. And if you, I will be launching a course to get off the bench and into the game of life to go from fear to fearless starting in January 2021. I will be sharing very targeted ways to aim at your specific goals in our 6-week guided path to show you the direct route using 3 secrets that just because they're secret, nobody talks about them. That's why. And I'm going to combine some success strategies that include universal laws that must work. They are laws when you use them with clarity, intention, and focus. There is much more to life than what you can see right now. Fear has its way to limit your focus and only see that what you can't do. With these simple secrets, I will share how to turn a can't into a can and go from fear brain that holds you back to being fearless using your logic and analytical part of your brain to engage your higher mind, to reroute from your fear or emotional brain to put it back in your control. Marcucci says that overcoming fears requires a growth mindset and attitude that we can grow and change if we choose. Nothing is locked in forever. We can change. It takes time and practice. Hopefully, these tips above will help you to begin your journey to ditch fear. Sorry. I agree that to unlock your fear, you will need to do your own heart, core, inner work. But it is possible. And in our, I'm going to call it experiential workshop in January, you will be able to understand and work through your own fears. I also certify to have clients to have an emotional support animal. And I have found that is a great first step to have a companion with you to take those first step out of fear. You can find out how to qualify for an emotional support animal at esapros.com. All of our podcasts at Anxiety Simplified and on YouTube at Anxiety Simplified Podcast are designed to assist you overcoming anxiety. So I hope you'll listen to help us know what's helpful to you. Let us know with rating and reviewing. Happy Halloween, and don't let the election distract you from what's important in your life or let fear rule you. All for now. Have a great, happy Halloween.
Thank you for listening. Please support our podcast by rating, reviewing, and subscribing. Please, to show your support. And remember to use and practice a skill we shared today to feel the joys of life. Remember, you can always call us 760-485-6784 for that free 10-minute consultation where we can discuss your next step. Or you can go to our website at anxietysimplified.net for more on how to get certified for an emotional support animal today. And remember to share the love.